Hey guys, I am going to walk you through my action research proposal. I have entitled it Student Engagement and Collaboration Evidence Through STEM Education Curriculum. To give you a little bit of background information on my research, I am a fourth grade teacher at Sandersville Elementary here in Lexington, Kentucky with Fayette County Public Schools. And one of the major obstacles that intermediate teachers have noticed at Sandersville is the lack of engagement, focus, and collaborative learning taking place with students when it comes to teaching science and technology concepts in the classroom. We will be implementing the next generation science standards next school year. However, they will not be assessed until the 2015-2016 school year. As a school, we are not a STEM-based driven school. We do have a science lab. However, we have not switched over to all STEM practices. We do have an after-school STEM club that I facilitate that meets during the fall and spring months 1 day a week. We also have the Family Engineering Night that we host once a year. We collaborate with community stakeholders, our faculty is involved, and I try to lead that every year as a means to push STEM curriculum initiatives within our community to hopefully get parents and families involved in this type of education for their students. My research will primarily take place in the classroom. I hope to work with a group of intermediate students 5 days a week for about 15 minutes to go ahead and implement a STEM curriculum to see if that helps with student engagement. Research that I conducted through my literature review showed that students that were involved in STEM education had A and B plus grade averages in math and science, and they also had a good average as far as their citizenship grade was concerned, because the students were engaging in collaborative practices and had to learn socialization skills to problem solve as a group. STEM tends to be very project-based centered, so that is something that we will be implementing through this research as well. It is my hope that students will be using self-assessment, goal setting, and journaling as a means to encourage their own engagement and collaborative learning. And hopefully this will be a self-reflective process not only for students but as well as myself as the educator. Several of my research questions include how does STEM education influence student collaboration and teamwork in the intermediate grade levels? How does a STEM project-based learning environment improve intermediate students' science understanding and their science assessment performance? And finally, does collaborative learning throughout a STEM curriculum impact student engagement at the intermediate grade levels? And based on the research that I've conducted, I propose that student engagement could improve with hands-on learning opportunities centered in STEM practice, opportunities for collaborative work, and projects that have real-world relevance and connection. Some of the research in my literature review showed that if students felt that they had a real-world connection and that there was real-world relevance in what they were studying, they were much more engaged and much more likely to show mastery of the concept that they were discussing and learning about. As far as my relationship to this particular project, this will be the first time that my role shifts beyond simply being the instructor, and I do say that lightly because we are all so much more than just instructors. But I'm going to be actively involved in this research. I'm going to be actively analyzing the results on a much more frequent basis than I would for other projects. I want to make sure that I'm a scholar practitioner as far as this project is concerned. Not only am I going to be researching engagement practices and trying to evaluate my lessons, if something works, we continue, but if something doesn't, I need to go and modify that so that it does become more successful. But I'm going to be practicing this just as much as I'm researching it, so that will be a different role for myself. But that's a role that I think is necessary to grow me as an educator, because I do want to actively seek to improve my students' performance so that they can make a real-world connection. And I do want them to develop that knowledge base in STEM-based curriculum so that hopefully this will impact what they choose for careers later on in their life. As far as collaboration is concerned, I'll be collaborating with two primary people. The first is my assistant principal, who will be observing me just as my general classroom observation since I'm a non-tenured staff member. However, I've already informed him about my action research project and the goals of STEM education in this class, as well as the purpose of improving student engagement. So there will be several things that he'll be looking for when he observes this school year. Secondly, I'll be collaborating with our science lab teacher. She and I have already begun to design some lesson plans that are focused towards those next generation science standards. Also, she and I have talked about implementing more actively the Engineering is Elementary curriculum designed by the Boston Museum of Science. We have several of those kits at Sandersville. However, we have not implemented them with Fidelity. So this will be the first year that we're actually actively engaging in that. So she'll be looking for evidence of student engagement and mastery of content when she helps to observe and collaborate with me in this. As far as the students are concerned, they will be performing mostly hands-on learning that's project-based, so they're going to have to learn to collaborate very quickly. Also, they will be completing modules and lessons that are designed by myself and our science lab teacher, as well as those labs that are already created by the elementary engineering program. Several of the ways that I plan to gauge student engagement. First, I plan on implementing a pre and post survey. The pre and post survey was designed by the Research and Evaluation Group from the University of Massachusetts. It's called the Donahue Institute, and basically we're going to see these students evaluate how they feel about math, science, technology, and engineering, and how they feel about their mastery of this content before and after the course has been completed. Throughout the timeline of this project, I will more than likely only have time to complete one engineering is elementary module and one unit that is self-designed, so they will be evaluated twice. Before each of those units and after each of those units. I also plan on actively meeting with students on a weekly basis to interview students about their engagement and feelings towards the lessons that we're completing. Also, I am going to be implementing Edmodo with these students, and they will be actively journaling on discussion boards to show signs of mastery and student engagement. There will be formative data collected at the end of every lesson, and that's going to help me to develop a sense of if students are mastering the content or not. As far as this timetable is concerned, I'm hoping to have the research and refinement of the project taking place by November. When it comes to the final stages of my project, I definitely I'm going to need to go back and make sure that I have refined this project if need be. If there are STEM education lessons that are working, I want to make sure that I'm continuing to model these lessons and implement these. However, if this STEM-based curriculum shows that students are not engaged, meaning that they're not mastering content and that they're not actively involved in their learning, or that they don't enjoy their learning, then myself and our science lab teacher, we're going to have to kind of back up and punt and try to find some things that will engage these students and help them to master this content, because these new standards are very, very deep, and it's going to be more rigorous for our kiddos. If my hypothesis is incorrect, then I'm definitely going to have to cycle backwards. But that's kind of that whole thing of action research. It's very cyclical. We want to make sure that we are constantly evaluating ourselves, not only as educators, but making sure that our students are self-reflective as well, and that we're all working together to see if this is a means to improve our school climate. So I hope that you enjoyed my delightful pitch of my action research project. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you enjoyed it, lovely. If not, well, I'm sorry. Good luck to you all. I can't wait to hear about you all's action research projects and proposals, and I'll see you soon.